Have you ever stopped to consider why your efforts fall short? Why the days blend together without progress? Why the dream you speak of feels no closer today than it did a year ago? I will tell you why. Because the fire has gone out. Because you move through life with no flame, no fuel, no spark in your step, or conviction in your voice. Because you have not yet learned the first law of lasting success, that enthusiasm is the gateway to all power, and without it you will remain nothing more than a whisper in a world that rewards only those who roar. Success is not handed to the lukewarm. It is not bestowed upon the hesitant, nor inherited by the idle. Success is attracted, magnetized, to the man who moves with energy, with passion, with an unwavering sense of urgency and belief in the worth of his mission. The man who acts with enthusiasm does not beg for attention. He commands it. He does not wait to be told what to do. He moves because motion is his native language. He breathes it. He walks in it. He becomes the physical embodiment of momentum. Act with enthusiasm, and success will follow. Say that again. Let it echo into your bloodstream. Let it vibrate against every excuse you've told yourself for waiting, because action alone is not enough. Emotionless, hollow action, robotic, hesitant motion will never move the needle. You must act with feeling, with force, with fire in your gut and thunder in your chest. There is no room in this world for half-hearted men. There is no victory for the indifferent. There is no greatness for the bored. The doors of success swing open not for those who knock timidly, but for those who kick them open with enthusiasm dripping from every fiber of their being. You don't need more strategy, you need more soul. Enthusiasm is not noise. It is not show. It is not a smile painted over frustration. It is the deep, burning certainty that what you are doing matters, that your life is not an accident, that your breath is a privilege, that your time is currency, and you have chosen to spend it on a mission worth dying for. That's what enthusiasm is. Spiritual fire, purpose expressed through movement. And you must choose it. You must choose it every morning when doubt tries to greet you before the sun. You must choose it in the silence when no one applauds. You must choose it when failure knocks, when fatigue whispers, when the path ahead looks uphill and uncertain. Because it is in those moments when most men retreat that the enthusiastic man rises. He rises not because it's easy, but because he has trained himself to move anyway. He has disciplined his nervous system to link action to identity, not emotion. He no longer asks, "How do I feel?" He declares, "This is who I am." And who is that man? He is the one who knows that effort without enthusiasm is empty. He is the one who understands that repetition without feeling is the death of progress. He is the one who brings presence, passion, and posture to every task, no matter how small. He has burned the bridge to mediocrity. He does not flirt with average. He does not entertain the idea of a lukewarm life. Say it again. Act with enthusiasm, and success will follow. But you cannot fake it. The world knows. The law knows. You may fool your peers, but you will never fool the forces that shape destiny. They respond not to words, but to frequency. And enthusiasm carries the highest frequency of all. It is faith in motion. It is vision made audible. It is belief that has become behavior. You don't need to see results to act with enthusiasm. You act with enthusiasm so that results appear. You don't need evidence to move with passion. Your passion creates the evidence. Because the man who acts as if success is already his draws it closer with every step. He collapses time. He bends reality. Not by magic, but by mastery, the mastery of his inner world. This is where the great divide forms. The masses wait. They wait for a feeling. They wait for motivation. They wait for the clouds to part and permission to descend. But the successful, they move. They move when tired. They move when uncertain. They move when unseen. Because their enthusiasm does not come from circumstance, it comes from within. They have built it, brick by brick, through the discipline of attitude, through the structure of belief, through the relentless rehearsal of truth spoken aloud again and again until the subconscious bends and the body follows. And you must do the same. You must become your own furnace. You must become the source of your own fire. Every day, stoke it, speak to it, feed it. Say, I am not my fears. I am not my failures. I am not my fatigue. I am enthusiasm embodied. I am the living energy of my purpose. I am the rhythm of my vision turned into work, and my work turned into wealth. Say it again and again, until your entire nervous system begins to believe, because that belief is what fuels action, not vague hope, not shallow desire, but belief charged with emotion. That is the formula, that is the path. Thought plus feeling repeated equals identity, and identity acted upon with enthusiasm creates destiny. This is not philosophy. This is power. This is the architecture of greatness. This is the path carved by discipline, paved by intention, and traveled with urgency. And it begins with how you show up, how you move through your morning, how you speak into your day, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. That is where the fire is kindled. That is where the future is built. You must stop treating enthusiasm like a luxury. It is a necessity. Without it, your work decays. Your thoughts weaken. Your spirit begins to rot from within. But with it, you become divine. Not in the eyes of men, in the eyes of the law. Because the law responds to power, and enthusiasm is power. So I challenge you now. Examine your posture. Examine your tone. Examine your steps. Are you moving like the man who already possesses the life you claim to want? Are you speaking with the voice of one who believes the vision is already real? Are you executing with a level of energy that says, I was born for this? If not, why not? What excuse could possibly survive in the presence of this truth? You are not tired. You are uninspired. You are not overwhelmed. You are under-enthused. You are not stuck. You are stationary by choice. But that ends today. Because now you know. Now you see the code. Now you understand that success does not chase the slow, the doubtful, the hesitant. It runs to meet the man in motion, the man on fire, the man who acts with enthusiasm. You can choose to stay where you are, or you can rise with fire in your eyes, thunder in your chest, and a declaration on your lips that says, I will move with energy. I will speak with conviction. I will build with faith. I will live with enthusiasm. Because the man who does cannot be stopped. Not by time, not by failure, not by fear, not by the world, because that man has become a force, and the world moves for a force. You are a force. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are not here to drift or dabble or wonder if your life will amount to something. You are here for a reason, a cause, a definite mission that demands your full attention, your complete participation, and your highest level of energy. That energy is enthusiasm, and it is not optional. It is your duty. If your life is flat, if your progress is stalled, if your days feel dull, it is not because your dream has died. It is because your spirit has fallen asleep. It is because your body has forgotten what your soul already knows. That enthusiasm is the sacred spark that awakens the divine in man. And once that spark is alive, nothing can stay the same. No fear can survive it, no weakness can withstand it, no lie can coexist with it. But you must keep it burning. It does not stay lit on its own. It is not passive. It is a flame you must feed daily with purpose, with movement, with declarations of power spoken aloud and carried out in real time. You cannot whisper your way to greatness. You cannot think your way to victory. You must live it, speak it, move like it is already yours. And how do you do this? You decide. You decide that you will never again approach your life as though it were ordinary. You decide that every day you wake up you will act with such intensity, such conviction, such vibrational authority that the air around you shifts. You walk into rooms differently. You shake hands differently. You look people in the eye, not with arrogance, but with certainty. The certainty of a man who knows who he is. The certainty of a man who has trained his mind to respond with power, even when the outcome is unclear. The certainty of a man who no longer waits for circumstances to give him permission to act, because he is the circumstance. He is the event. He is the force that bends the world into shape. You must become that man. Not tomorrow. Not when it feels easier. Now, enthusiasm is not something you wear. It is something you become. It is not a tone of voice or a louder volume. It is not theatrical. It is spiritual. It is the divine intersection between thought and belief, between knowing and becoming. It is where your intention meets your identity and says, this is who I am now. This is how I move now. This is how I live now. And once that shift is made, once that internal system is calibrated, there is no return to the old ways. You may feel tired, but you will still move. You may feel fear, but you will still decide. You may hear the whispers of self-doubt, but they will no longer hold power, because the voice of enthusiasm will drown them out. Because enthusiasm is louder than fear. It is stronger than hesitation. It is more powerful than excuse. And it is available to any man willing to claim it. You don't need to be gifted. You don't need to be favored. You don't need a perfect past or a flawless plan. You need a fire, a decision, a will so unbreakable that even the universe says, we must move for this one. And the moment you decide to live with that fire, your life begins to bend. People see it, they feel it, they respond to it, not because you are selling them something, but because you are something. You have become the product of discipline, the expression of vision, the walking manifestation of belief, multiplied by action. You no longer need to try to be confident, you radiate it. You no longer need to convince yourself you're worthy, you walk like it. This is the man whose habits become holy. This is the man whose presence shifts the frequency of every room he enters. This is the man who carries victory in his posture, not because he has won, but because he knows he cannot lose as long as he continues to act with enthusiasm. Success is not a finish line. It is a side effect. It is the consequence of showing up daily with more energy than the problem brings resistance. You do not defeat failure with logic, you destroy it with energy. You do not outrun fear with hope, you obliterate it with enthusiasm. Because enthusiasm is not a feeling, it is a weapon. It is your sword in the battle against self-doubt. It is your shield in the storm of mediocrity. It is your engine in the climb toward destiny. And you must sharpen it, guard it, feed it, use it. Because if you don't, the world will feed you something else, distraction, fear, confusion, weakness. And if you allow it, you will forget who you are. But not today. Today you remember. Today you reclaim the fire. Today you say, I move with power. I speak with force. I decide with boldness. I act with enthusiasm, and success follows. You see, the law has already been written. It is not emotional. It does not discriminate. It simply obeys frequency. It moves in response to the man who has aligned thought, belief, speech, and behavior. So, if you are out of alignment, if your thoughts are small, your words weak, your actions lazy, then your results will reflect it. But change the signal, and the result must change. Say this aloud. My energy is sacred. My enthusiasm is holy. My presence is powerful. And feel the shift begin. Feel your chest rise with breath charged by purpose. Feel your shoulders square as responsibility transforms into privilege. Feel your eyes sharpen with the awareness that you are no longer walking through life asleep. You are here. You are awake. You are alive with fire. And that fire has one command. Move. Not when you feel like it. Not when it's comfortable. Now, move with intensity. Move with rhythm. Move with clarity. Move like a man whose soul was lit by the match of his own decision. And you will see the weight you once carried begins to feel lighter. The obstacles you once feared begin to dissolve. The noise of the world begins to fade. Because the man who acts with enthusiasm does not chase energy, he creates it. He does not beg for opportunity, he builds it. He does not wait for the world to wake up to his greatness, he declares it with every step. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the natural outcome of a man who has finally remembered his identity and is no longer willing to live beneath it. So say this now. No more half effort. No more hesitation. No more hoping. I act with enthusiasm. I speak with conviction. I build with force. And I do it daily, because that is who I am now. Your habits are a mirror. Your energy is a magnet. Your motion is your message. So make it loud. Make it bold. Make it unstoppable, because success is already waiting. Not for your perfection, not for your plan, but for your presence. Your enthusiastic presence. The force of a man fully alive in his purpose, fully lit with power, fully committed to movement, and fully aware that the fire he carries is not borrowed, it is earned each day with discipline and decision. So rise and walk like a man on fire. Rise and speak like a man who no longer doubts. Rise and move like the law of success has no choice but to follow your lead. Because it doesn't. Not when you act with enthusiasm, and not when you do it with conviction that burns so bright it scorches your old self behind you. You are no longer that man, the hesitant one, the one who second-guessed his gifts, the one who dimmed his light to fit in. That version of you is gone. In his place stands a force. A standard? A man so focused, so alive, so infused with energy, that the world has no choice but to respond. And it will. It always does. Because the law is simple. Act with enthusiasm and success will follow. You have come this far. You have risen through resistance. You have stood when others sat, acted when others paused, pushed when others broke. And still I ask you, will you now hesitate? Will you now go backward? Or will you decide today, right now, that the rest of your life will be lived under a new law, the law of enthusiasm? Because it is a law. It is not luck. It is not personality. It is not given to some and withheld from others. It is a spiritual principle, a universal force, and it moves with power only when you move with presence. Do not underestimate this. Success has always been a game of frequency. The man who operates on the highest level of energy, intention, and belief is the man the world must reward. Not because he is louder, not because he is favored, but because he has aligned himself with cause and effect, he sows with power, and so he reaps with force. That is what enthusiasm is, a cause. It is the cause that precedes effect. It is the origin of momentum. It is the vibration that cracks open the hard shell of resistance and lets opportunity flood in. And yet how few understand this. How many waste their lives in waiting rooms, staring at the clock of motivation, begging for a reason to rise. They say, I don't feel like it. They say, I'm not ready yet. They say, one day I'll start. And I say, no, you won't. Not until you decide that enthusiasm is not a result, it is the beginning. It is the reason you start. And once you start, you never stop. You become the man who generates energy instead of waiting to feel it. You become the man who creates movement instead of watching others pass him by. You become the man who lifts others not because he tries to, but because the sheer force of his presence demands a shift. Your enthusiasm becomes contagious. Your presence becomes catalytic. Your walk becomes instruction. Your work becomes revelation. You are no longer someone trying to succeed. You are success in human form, and people feel it. Because the world doesn't believe what you say. It believes what you embody. And when you embody energy, purpose, and belief, the world opens for you. You walk through doors that were never even supposed to exist for you. You rise to levels that logic said you had no business reaching. You outperform men with more talent, more resources, more connections because you brought the one thing they didn't: fire. The man with fire always wins because the man with fire does not stop. He does not tire in the same way. He does not quit when the reward is delayed. He does not look back to measure how far he's come. He only asks, what's next? This is your path now. You are that man. The man who acts when no one claps. The man who moves when no one watches. The man who shows up not for validation, but because the mission is sacred. Say this with me now. My enthusiasm is sacred. My energy is intentional. My life is fire. My mission is holy. Say it again. Until your doubt begins to burn, until your hesitation starts to melt, until your fear begins to fade. You see, you've been lied to. Taught that success is about strategies, hacks, shortcuts. But here's the truth. Nothing outpaces pure, focused, enthusiastic energy. Nothing. Because when you act with enthusiasm, you go further on less sleep. You last longer under pressure. You learn faster, work sharper, stand stronger. You become immune to noise, blind to distraction, deaf to small talk. You become a force, and forces cannot be negotiated with. They can only be yielded to. This is what you must understand now. When you act with enthusiasm, you speak to the world in a language it must obey. You declare, I am here, I am moving, and I will not be stopped. And if you say it long enough, live it hard enough, breathe it deep enough, something shifts. Something permanent. You look in the mirror one day and realize you're not pretending anymore. You don't have to say the affirmations to believe them. You don't have to push yourself to act. You act because that's just who you are now. You've become it. And that's when the world takes its hands off the brakes. That's when the resistance starts to retreat. That's when the ideas land in your lap. That's when people say, there's something different about you. And you'll nod, not with arrogance, but with knowing. You'll know what happened. You burned away the old you. You built something real. You chose power when others chose comfort. You chose movement when others chose mood. You chose vision when others chose to sleep. You did not wait. You acted. And that decision changed everything. Because the man who acts with enthusiasm does not have to chase anything. He becomes the magnet. He becomes the example. He becomes the walking proof that energy aligned with purpose becomes inevitable progress. So say this now. I do not need more time. I do not need more chances. I need more fire. Say it until you believe it. Say it until the world echoes it back in results. Say it until your life reflects the intensity of your new standard. No more soft mornings. No more distracted work. No more passive living. You rise like a man on fire. You speak like a man with vision. You execute like a man who does not need applause. Because you've seen behind the curtain. You've discovered the one thing no one can give you, and no one can take away once you choose it. Enthusiasm. And when you guard it like your life depends on it, it does. It is your protection against the enemy of doubt. It is your defense against the virus of comparison. It is your antidote to the mediocrity that infects so many minds. You are no longer one of them. You are no longer drifting. You are no longer a servant to external circumstances. You are the master of your inner state. You've taken the throne of your own mind, and from that throne you command your energy. You command your belief. You command your destiny. So act like it. Move like it. Speak like it. And when you feel tired, act anyway. When you feel afraid, move anyway. When the fire flickers, stoke it, because that fire is your compass. That fire is your friend. That fire is your freedom. And every time you act with enthusiasm, that flame grows stronger, until one day you look back and realize you don't just have success, you've become it. You don't just have progress, you've embodied it. You don't just talk the talk, you've built the walk. You don't need the world to agree. You are the proof. So say it one last time. Act with enthusiasm and success will follow. Not once, not sometimes, every time. This is your moment now. Burn the bridge behind you. Stand on the ashes of hesitation. Look forward. See the path. It's waiting for you to move. With passion, with purpose, with a thunder in your soul and a rhythm in your step. Move now and never stop moving, because the man who acts with enthusiasm will never walk alone. He walks with purpose. He walks with power. He walks with the law on his side, and that man wins. My friend, let us begin with a truth so absolute that most men, though they hear it, never truly understand it. You are the cause of all that you experience. Your thoughts are the architects of your reality. Your beliefs are the blueprints. Your actions are the construction. And your results, whether they be glory or grief, are the structure you have built with your own mental hands. Now I ask you, what are you building? You may not like your answer, but I tell you this with unwavering certainty. If the world is ignoring you, it is because you have not yet demanded your own attention. You are still uncertain, still undecided, still allowing the winds of chance to blow your mind from one half-hearted thought to another. The man who cannot hold his own mind cannot expect to hold the attention of the world. But the moment you claim your mind, discipline it, direct it, dominate it, the world begins to notice, not at once, not with applause, but with a slow and undeniable pull toward your presence. This is not a game of noise, it is a law of nature. The world cannot ignore power. Not brute force, but the subtle power of certainty. The unmistakable weight of a man who has made up his mind and refuses to surrender it. Let us begin where all power begins, with a definiteness of purpose. This is not simply having a goal. It is not making a wish. It is the deliberate, intelligent decision to make one aim the central focus of your mind, your days, your energy, and your life. It is the one decision that erases 10,000 distractions. You do not become unignorable by being involved in everything. You become unignorable by being devoted to one thing so fully, so completely, that the world must acknowledge the clarity of your presence. A man with no purpose is invisible. A man with purpose cannot be missed. Ask yourself right now, without excuse, without editing, what is the one thing I must achieve in this life? Do not say, I'm not sure. Say instead, I have not yet decided, because decision is within your reach. It is not the lack of knowledge that holds men back. It is the lack of decision. And decision, once made with total commitment, transforms a man's very nature. You begin to speak differently. You walk differently. You rise before others. You endure beyond others, because now you are led not by feeling but by purpose. Now you may wonder, how do I bring this purpose to life? And I will tell you, through the most powerful principle known to man, autosuggestion. You must speak to your mind before the world does. Every morning, every night, with repetition, with emotion, with belief. You must feed your subconscious mind the identity of the man you intend to become until your entire nervous system accepts it as law. You are not convincing others. You are reprogramming yourself. Your subconscious does not care what is true. It cares what is repeated. And if you have spent years repeating fear, doubt, and limitation, then do not be surprised when your reality reflects the same. But if you begin today, right now, to repeat confidence, decision, power, discipline, and purpose, then in time, your external world will bend to match your internal vision. This is not fantasy. It is fact. It is the foundation of all lasting success. You must build in your mind a mental picture of who you are becoming, and then act as if it were already true. This is the secret behind all transformation. Behavior comes not from current identity, but from the identity you assume to be true. You will not rise by feeling. You will rise by thinking the way the man you wish to be would think long before the results have shown themselves. Now, let us go further. Every man must confront fear, the silent killer of dreams, the destroyer of thought, the suffocator of action. Fear is not real in the sense that it has no form. It is simply a misuse of imagination. But it becomes real when you allow it to direct your decisions. You may ask, how do I overcome fear? And I answer you, not by avoiding it, but by understanding it, confronting it, and acting in spite of it. Fear thrives on hesitation. Starve it with decisive movement. When you feel afraid, act. When you doubt, move. When you're uncertain, decide. You cannot think your way out of fear. You must build faith through action. And faith, my friend, is not a gift. It is a discipline. It is forged through repetition. You must speak power, not panic. Speak certainty, not speculation. Speak belief, not begging. You must train your subconscious to accept only the thoughts that serve your destiny. And how do you know which thoughts serve it? Simple. They are the thoughts that create movement. Thoughts that paralyze you are not yours. Thoughts that empower you, those are your birthright. Seize them. And once you begin to move, you must never again allow the opinions of the average to slow you. The opinions of small thinkers are the greatest tax ever placed on men with vision. You will be misunderstood. You will be doubted. You will be laughed at. Expect it, invite it, and walk through it. Because here lies another law. The man who cannot be ignored is the man who refuses to be discouraged. You do not need permission. You do not need applause. You do not even need support. You need one thing: decision backed by discipline. You need to be the kind of man who says, I will become it, and then moves as if it were already so. This is the power of assumption. Not fantasy, not delusion, but the conscious act of installing in your mind a standard and living up to it before the world sees it. Do not wait to be validated. Live in such a way that validation becomes irrelevant. You must become the man before you are recognized as such. And the moment you do, quietly, consistently, relentlessly, the world will begin to mirror back the image you held for yourself long before anyone else believed. Now let us examine the next law, the power of attention. Whatever you give your attention to grows. If you attend to distraction, your results will scatter. If you attend to fear, your confidence will weaken. If you attend to your purpose, your entire being will sharpen and intensify. The mind is not designed to hold 1,000 ideas. It is designed to focus on one burning idea and give it life through deliberate attention. You must build a mind so focused that mediocrity suffocates in its presence. When lesser thoughts appear, You dismiss them. When distractions arise, you ignore them. When doubt creeps in, you overpower it with your dominant thought. The world cannot ignore a man with intense focus. The world must bow to the man whose mind is possessed by one clear aim, pursued until complete. So ask yourself, am I focused or am I busy? Am I aligned or am I reacting? Because you cannot hold power if you cannot hold attention, and that begins with controlling your own. Lastly, we must speak of the principle few dare to mention, the responsibility of greatness. To think powerfully is not merely for your benefit. It is your duty. The world is desperate for men who are clear, steady, confident, and disciplined, not because it praises them, but because it needs them. When you rise, others feel it. When you think rightly, you give others permission to do the same. Your presence becomes a standard, a mirror, a challenge. This is not about becoming better than others. It is about becoming better than your former self, so consistently that your very existence forces others to choose, rise with you, or fall away. That is how you change the world. Not through slogans, not through arguments, through transformation of self. And that transformation begins with one law, one decision, one shift. You must decide this very moment that you will no longer entertain weak thinking. You will no longer delay decision. You will no longer ask for permission to pursue your vision. You will think as a man who has already become what he has decided to be. Because when you think this way, and move this way, and live this way, the world can no longer ignore you, not because of what you said, but because of what you built. Not because of who they see, but because of who you decided to become long before they believed. The world begins to respond the moment you do. It does not reward the passive thinker. It does not rise for the man who sits and waits. The world moves in the direction of clarity, commitment, and command. If you are not yet felt, not yet seen, not yet heard, it is not because you are unworthy, but because you have not yet decided to radiate. To radiate means to embody the thing you claim. You must not say, I want to be powerful. You must move, speak, walk, and build as though you already are. This is the law of assumed identity. What you assume long enough with feeling and repetition, you eventually become. It is the foundation of all personal greatness. When I say think this way, I do not speak of mere positive affirmations. I speak of mental command. The act of holding one single thought so consistently and with such emotional intensity that it dominates your reality. Most men entertain hundreds of thoughts a day. Few ever decide which ones they will allow to take root. This is why so many live by accident. But the man who selects his dominant thought, who waters it with action, who feeds it with belief and protects it with discipline, he becomes magnetic. Because every action, every word, every look begins to speak on behalf of that thought. He no longer lives in conflict. He lives in alignment. And alignment is power. But beware, your dominant thought is either building your future or reinforcing your limitation. There is no neutral ground. You must now ask, what have I rehearsed most in my mind? Is it failure? Is it fear? Is it delay, hesitation, apology? If so, then it is no mystery why the world does not yet see you. For the world can only reflect what you broadcast. If you wish to be noticed, you must first broadcast certainty, not noise, not arrogance, but the calm energy of direction. And you cannot fake this. The subconscious knows. And when you live out of alignment, the subconscious punishes you with confusion, fatigue, and anxiety. Clarity does not come from outside, it is earned inside. This is why I tell you, speak your vision every morning, not once, not casually, with fire, with intensity. Let your voice become the blueprint your subconscious builds upon. Your voice must not just describe your future, it must declare it. I am decisive. I am disciplined. I am directed. I act with power and purpose. The world cannot ignore me because I cannot be moved. Speak it until your subconscious accepts it, and when that happens, your results will follow with mechanical precision. Because the mind, once trained, does not require motivation, it requires only a command. But there is something deeper still, something more dangerous than fear, and it is called indecision. Indecision is a virus that infects every dream it touches. It weakens the will. It creates confusion. It keeps your energy locked in neutral. And while you stall, opportunities pass you by, silently and permanently. You may say, but I don't want to make the wrong choice. And I tell you, the only wrong choice is to make none. Indecision is not caution. It is cowardice dressed in the costume of logic. If you are wrong, you can correct. If you fail, you can learn. But if you sit idle, you gain nothing and lose everything. A powerful mind makes decisions swiftly and changes them rarely. This is not recklessness. This is confidence forged through direction. Because when a man knows where he's going, he stops consulting confusion. Ask yourself now, where in my life am I stalling? That area is where you are leaking power. You must seal that leak by deciding, and once you do, burn the bridge to hesitation. Now let us examine another law, too often forgotten, the law of silence and selectivity. When your vision is clear and your mind is trained, your next task is to protect your energy. You must learn to guard your mind with the same intensity that a king guards his throne. Not every voice deserves your ear. Not every opinion deserves consideration. Not every conversation deserves your presence. The world is full of people who mean well but live small. They fear your growth because it reflects their stagnation. They will distract you with concern, drown you in advice, pull you into drama. But you must stay firm. You do not argue. You do not defend. You do not explain. You execute. Let your results speak. Let your stillness confuse them. Let your silence do the heavy lifting. When you remove the need to prove, you gain the ability to persuade without speaking. There is a reason the strongest individuals are quiet. They are not uncertain. They are calculating. They are observing. They are building while others are performing. Remember this, he who speaks most is not always he who knows most. Speak less, move more, choose conversations that multiply your mission, dismiss those that subtract from it. This is not arrogance. It is mental hygiene. You must curate your influences with ruthless precision. Let us now look at perhaps the greatest separator between the remembered and the forgotten, the habit of over-delivery. While others look for shortcuts, you must look for standards. You do not rise by asking what is required. You rise by giving more than expected, not once, not twice, but as a philosophy of existence. Do not wait for opportunity. Become the kind of man who creates it by becoming irreplaceable. This is done by mastering your craft, by refining the details, by adding weight to your words, by finishing what you start, by showing up early and staying late not to impress, but because that is who you are. When the world sees that you are the one who delivers, without complaint, without delay, without exception, it must reward you. This is not my opinion. This is the law of compensation. The man who does more than he is paid to do will, in time, be paid more than he does. This principle has never failed, and it never will. Because the marketplace does not pay for time. It pays for value. It pays for impact. It pays for excellence. It pays for certainty. And certainty is not something you ask for, it is something you embody. You do not need credentials to begin. You do not need applause to continue. You need to become the type of man who cannot stop improving, not because he is broken, but because he is called. You must see your work as a mirror. If it is sloppy, your mind is sloppy. If it is rushed, your priorities are scattered. If it is precise, powerful, deliberate, so too are you. And this brings us to your environment. You will never outgrow the influence of your surroundings. If you remain among those who mock excellence, you will begin to shrink your vision to fit their comfort. You must build a circle of alignment. Men who sharpen you, men who mirror your purpose, men who do not need motivation because they are fueled by vision. This is your mastermind, a sacred alliance of minds united in clarity, decision, and discipline. Even one aligned mind can multiply your momentum. Even one misaligned voice can collapse your confidence. Choose carefully. No one rises alone. But many fall by staying around the wrong people for too long. Make it your habit to measure every influence by one standard. Does this align with my highest vision of myself? If not, eliminate it, not with anger, with certainty. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your evolution, and those meant to rise with you will never ask you to explain it. Lastly, you must understand the nature of invisible progress. Many men quit because they cannot see the fruits of their labor, but progress is not always visible to the eye. The roots grow before the tree emerges. The foundation is poured before the building rises. Your work, your effort, your repetition, your decision, your discipline, it is creating a force that the eye cannot yet see. But it is there, and it is building. And one day it will emerge, suddenly, undeniably, powerfully. Do not dig up the seed just because you do not see the sprout. You are being watched by life, by time, by your own subconscious. And if you remain consistent, you will be rewarded beyond measure. Because the world, my friend, has no defense against the man who refuses to fold. No shield against the man who walks with clarity. No rebuttal to the man who has already decided. So I leave you with this. Think like the man you seek to become. Act like his success is already yours. Move with the integrity of your highest self. Refuse to quit, even in silence. Broadcast certainty, even in doubt. Build discipline, even in obscurity. Sharpen your focus, even when no one notices. Because when you do, when you think this way, the world, slowly at first, then all at once, will realize it cannot look away. Now we arrive at the final gate, the place where most men hesitate, but where the few who cross are transformed forever. This is where thought becomes law, where belief becomes behavior, where internal certainty becomes external dominance. And the tool that bridges this final gap is persistence. You must understand, even the clearest purpose, even the most disciplined mind, even the sharpest talent, none of it matters unless it is driven by persistence that cannot be broken. This is the great equalizer. There are men more talented than you. There are men with more resources, more connections, more advantages. But if you persist longer, harder, and more intelligently than they are willing to endure, you will surpass them. Not through luck, through law. Persistence is the refusal to negotiate with failure. It is the spiritual resolve that says, this mountain will move, not because I am lucky, but because I refuse to walk away. You do not need speed. You need direction and the relentless refusal to be denied. There is no force more terrifying to mediocrity than a man who simply will not stop. The reason most are ignored is not because they lacked ability. It is because they did not persist long enough to become undeniable. Let me offer you a truth I have seen in thousands of lives, including the greatest successes ever studied. The final reward always comes after the greatest resistance. It is not the early excitement that defines a man. It is what he does when applause is stopped, when doors are closed, when the path narrows to darkness. Can you keep going then? Can you walk in silence, in solitude, with faith alone? Because the man who can do that The man who thinks rightly even when there's no evidence to affirm him, that is the man the universe will eventually obey. You must never measure the value of your action by its immediate return. That is the thinking of the impatient, the immature, the drifter. You must instead see each act of persistence as a vote for your inevitability. When you show up, when you deliver, when you repeat, you are voting for your greatness. And in time, those votes accumulate into something unstoppable, momentum. Once momentum is earned, it does the lifting for you. But momentum does not show up by chance. It is invited through discipline, repetition, and thought, thinking the same empowering thought for weeks, months, years, until it crystallizes into form. And when the world sees this, when it sees a man no longer guessing, no longer doubting, no longer negotiating with distractions, it does not just notice, it obeys. The world obeys the man who has become the living proof of his own thoughts. You must now begin to think of yourself not as someone pursuing success, but as someone modeling excellence. You are not simply a thinker, you are an architect. You are not merely ambitious, you are a living demonstration of principle in motion. This is the highest form of thought. Thought embodied, thought walked, thought executed. The most dangerous man alive is not the loudest. He is not the most decorated. He is the one who has married thought with discipline, belief with behavior, faith with execution. You become this man not once but daily. You decide it each morning. You install it each action. You rehearse it until it no longer requires thought because it has become you. And so you must make this final shift. You must now stop trying to become someone. You must now simply be it. No more warming up. No more trial runs. No more one day. The man you've envisioned, disciplined, powerful, unshakable, he must now step forward. How? By aligning every single choice with that vision. You eat like him. You walk like him. You schedule like him. You speak with his clarity. You operate with his pace. You give with his generosity. You cut off what he would never tolerate. There must be no gap left between who you are and who you say you are. You are no longer in training, you are in command. Let us speak now of the presence you must carry. There is a presence that transcends appearance, wealth, and status. It cannot be faked. It cannot be borrowed. It can only be earned through inner mastery. You know it when it enters a room. You feel it in stillness. It is not announced. It is recognized. This presence is cultivated by years of thinking, believing, deciding, and moving as one indivisible force. You must now become this presence. You must walk into every room with the energy of a man who does not need to be the loudest because he knows he is the most aligned. When you operate with this level of control, you will no longer chase respect. You will command it. And not because you ask for it, but because you have become a man for whom respect is the only possible response. Your voice carries weight when your life backs it. Your silence becomes powerful when your mind is disciplined. Your presence becomes a message when your character is consistent. This is how the world begins to respond without you even speaking. But be warned, the moment you break this alignment, when your behavior contradicts your beliefs, when you say one thing and do another, you fracture your power. The world can smell inconsistency. So can your subconscious. And when either senses it, they retreat. So protect your alignment like a warrior guards his sword. Sharpen it daily. Keep it clean. Keep it ready. And above all, never allow temporary emotions to destroy what permanent vision has built. You must now become unreactive. The unignorable man does not flinch at every sound. He does not collapse with every criticism. He does not explain himself to every fool. He sees. He observes. He remains centered. And he moves with precision while others flail in emotion. This is your edge. While others are loud, you are measured. While others panic, you are composed. While others seek attention, you exude gravity, the silent force that draws others near because they can feel you are rooted in something deeper. Now understand this, you will never be perfect, but you must be consistent. The man who is consistent eventually overtakes the man who is gifted but undisciplined. He outlasts the man who burned bright but lacked purpose. He overshadows the one who shouted but never delivered. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is undefeated, and it is built on simple habits repeated with great conviction. So let me challenge you now. What habits must you destroy? What environments must you leave? What decisions have you delayed? What version of you must die so the real one can live? Answer these with honesty and then act. Because when you do, when your decisions match your destiny, when your habits reflect your highest calling, when your thoughts are no longer weak but forged in certainty, then the shift will occur. You will no longer chase power, you will embody it. You will no longer beg for opportunity, you will become the kind of man who attracts it. You will no longer wonder when the world will see you, because it will have no choice. And not because of who you know, not because of where you came from, not because of what you have, but because of who you chose to become. So now, you must commit, not for a day, not for a week, but until your thoughts match your walk, until your habits match your identity, until your presence becomes undeniable, until your results echo louder than your intentions, until your life itself becomes the message. This is how to think. This is how to rise. This is how the world no longer ignores you. Because the man who controls his thoughts, who commands his actions, who lives aligned with principle, persistence, and purpose, that man is a law unto himself. He does not wait for permission. He decides, and once decided, he never leaves the path.